Let's begin with safety matter now, because there is nothing more important than a good, safe and secure home. Yet another building has collapsed in Lagos, and we are now dealing with the attending impact. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, said the death toll at the collapsed three-story building in Ebute Metta in Lagos has increased to 10, made up of 6 males and 4 females. According to the Southwest Zonal Coordinator of NEMA, Ibrahim Fariloye, the victims included a 4-year-old baby boy and a female youth corps member, while the number of rescued occupants remains 24. Today, Lagos is becoming so notorious for...
I just can't explain why we keep having this problem in Lagos. Yes, this is a state that seeks to number among the mega city-states of the world. And we are allowing this to happen. We are allowing this to happen. The question is, every time this happens, who gets punished? Who are the people whose responsibilities it is to ensure that
forestall this?
Yes, to make sure that this does not happen, and that when people are building a house, that they comply with all the stipulations put in place by the Urban Regional Planning Board. Where are those people whose duty it is to ensure that due diligence is done? Every time we keep hearing about this. Every time.
Lagos.
And you see, my worry is that this will get worse.
Yes.
Because a bag of cement that we used to buy 2 years ago,
yes,
between 1,500 to 1,600, is now 4,000 naira.
So
in some cases, it is 4,001, and you will still pay
to load it.
Yes. Now, cement is not as costly as reinforcement. By reinforcement, I mean iron rods.
Yes.
If you know how expensive iron rod is now,
all those things are necessary.
Yet, when you want to do what is called DPC or German floor, as some people like to call it, you do when you want to do your foundation.
Yes.
You need
all this
granite or gravel, if you can't afford granite, because in the olden days it was granite. I mean, it was gravel that we knew. But you need the cement, the mixing to be pure, so that it can be rock solid. And in the environment that we find ourselves in Lagos, the swampy nature of the soil means that the foundation has to be very strong. But how many people are prepared to spend all that money? Because when
not to compromise safety standards.
You want to do 4-story building, for example, your DPC has to be rock solid.
Yes, and
the German floors
the
to be rock solid.
required amount of cement.
That alone can account for at least more than half of the cost of putting up the building, including the lintel. So people who are reluctant to spend all that money, they will now try to cut corners. There is the number of head pounds to a bag of cement. If you do not comply with it, and given the soil texture around here, there's no way that the building won't be compromised. But we are not. Every time we just hear about, a building has collapsed, people have died. What do we do? The one that collapsed, the high-rise building that collapsed the other day, we could have avoided it.
Yes.
With some of those videos that came out later, it was clear that something was wrong. We could have avoided it. But we prefer to let the construction continue. Now it claimed lives. Look at that of the church. The Synagogue Church of All Nations. The report, the coroner's report, showed that those stipulations were breached. Clearly, they went against all known norms.
And people perished.
Yes, people perished. Look at, and it was even the decision of the corona was that the engineers who handled that should not be allowed to practice anymore.
The Lekki story building that collapsed, they've given a verdict that the 2 other adjoining buildings should come down.
Yeah.
The buildings are still standing till now.
Until it kills people. I don't know what's wrong with us.
So, okay, if you go to places like Ebutimeta, you go to Lagos Island, and you see some buildings, as in, just go to Lagos Island and see those buildings the way these buildings are standing. When looking at those buildings, you will know that, look, any moment from now, these buildings, they will give way.
Yes. The question is which building will collapse next? Because there are two classes of structures in this case. You have ones under construction that
substandard
collapse. There are ones that have been constructed for decades that have a stress, problem. We've had a couple of building collapse in Lagos that forced the state government to say that they are going to carry out stress tests in many of these buildings.
Yes.
So the question is, how far have they gone with that exercise? How far have they gone? What is actually the brief of those in the regulatory agencies? Because what we are seeing now is a question of failure of regulations and enforcement. If you read the account of how this structure collapsed, especially from those who survived it, the residents there have been given quick notice, but they didn't comply. The issue is, who gave them the quick notice?
Nowhere to go.
Was it the owner of the building or the appropriate state agencies? The fact is that when you see some of the things happening in Lagos, you begin to wonder why Lagos should, parade itself as a center of excellence and a mega city. So we have to get the agencies involved, to do their job.
Densely populated.
Yes, and to make sure that some people suffer for these unavoidable deaths.
Yes.
These are deaths that are unavoidable. Because if people who have that responsibility to be going from street to street to identify these structures and then mark them for demolition, these things will not happen.
Some of these buildings, they lean on each other and they don't have clear demarcation. And the way you see it, you see very funny looking buildings.
Where a building, because where the building superstructure is designed to carry just 2 stories, and our people, out of a desire to make money, we start adding to it. We start adding to it. That was what caused the Synagogue Church of All Nations to collapse, to come down. Then they started telling us that it was an aircraft that overhead.
Yes.
An aircraft just going to its destination. Because the place is on the aircraft flight path.
It became a witch.
You now told us that it was the aircraft.
Conspiracy
theory. And some people believe that nonsense.
Yes.
Now, if you it was not, those guys added more floors without permission.
More than the design.
Yes, without permission. So if a house is meant, given a superstructure is meant to carry just 2 floors, and you went to add 3 more, ultimately it will come down. It will come down. So this is the issue that we face. The regulators are sleeping. Some of them are compromised. Some of the most corrupt people that you can think of are the ones who are supposed to do this regulation. I remember interviewing Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu at that time, in the early stages of his administration. And he said that he discovered that approvals were given by crooked civil servants for skyscraper to be built on drainage channel in this Lagos. So all he did was simply to punish some of them. Because let's face it, sometimes you cannot, if you have to remove that building on the drainage channel, how do you do that? Because they had valid permit. It can lead to litigation. To avoid that litigation, you allowed the building to remain. Yes, we are going to, the result of which is you are going to have issues like flooding and all that. But the civil servants involved, he sent them packing.
All right. There's no end yet to the madness in the southeast.